All right, well, I got a couple questions here for you, Darryl. Looking forward to hearing some of your answers. You're an absolute legend. So if you're unfamiliar with Daily Faceoff is a fantasy hockey website and show, and we all dream of our fantasy hockey players going off for a 10-point night. It's absolutely legendary. But when you look back on, you're someone who actually did it and lived it. When you look back on that game, what stands out to you the most about that night? Maybe something that fans might not know.
Well, first of all, it's hard to believe it's the 50th anniversary coming up this year, February 7th, 2026. The Leaf organization is going to honor and celebrate that 50th anniversary record. What I remember about it, back in the 70s when you played a Saturday night hockey night in Canada and in across Canada, when you're playing an original six team, it seemed like there was a little bit more electricity in the city and the building for games like that. So going to the morning skate, we generally have a regular routine. Players, you go down. I lived in Mississauga. You go down to the rink. You do your little skate, test your sticks and stuff like that, and then you go home and have an afternoon nap. Well, for some reason that morning I got behind schedule. Things got out of hand a little bit with media and just behind schedule. And my wife, who was 8 months pregnant at the time, was out shopping. So instead of going home and making my own pregame meal, I stopped at Swiss Chalet, which is a popular chicken in Canada. Had my Swiss Chalet on the front seat of my car, went and had my nap, went down to the rink that night. And after the second period, I had scored 7 points. And back then, none of us paid attention to what records were. We didn't have the internet like you have now. And at the end of the second period, our statistician came down from the press box, walked all the way down to the dressing room over to me. He says, "Darryl, I don't know if you know it, but Rocket Richard had set that record of 8 points in a game back in the late 40s, I guess, early 50s. And he said, if you get one more point, you tie Rocket Richard's record." So that was the first moment in time I knew that I knew I was having a good game, but that if I got another point, I could tie an NHL record. So the next period we went out, I ended up getting another 3 goals and tying and then breaking the record, which was kind of cool. After the game, I went on Hockey Night in Canada, and I had mentioned to the announcer there that I had the Swiss Chalet chicken. I guess Swiss Chalet heard about it, sent me $500 gift certificates in Swiss Chalet. Now, back in the 70s, you could buy a lot of chicken for $500. So that was my story. It's still a record today. I often thought Gretzky or Lemieux might be the two guys that would tie or break it back in the late 80s, early 90s. They were getting a couple hundred points a season. I think Wayne had 8 points a couple times, Mario also. So it's still a record today. Proud to do it in a Leaf uniform, and I hope it lasts a while longer.
Well, speaking of players breaking that record, the last guy to even sniff that record was Sam Gagner in 2012. So be honest, were you watching that game, or were you thinking like, all right, kid, that's enough?
You know, what's interesting you say that. That game was out in Edmonton, so there's a couple hour time change here in Toronto. But when something like that is happening, my phone lights up with texts saying, hey, a guy's got 3 goals already in a first period or whatever it might be. So I was aware of it when I woke up the next morning. But yeah, that was great for Sam. And, when you really look at it realistically, like how many times are there ever 10 goals scored by one team in a game? Doesn't happen very often. I don't know what the stat is, but then to be in all 10 of them is pretty unique. So again, it was great to do it. I didn't know at the time that it was going to last this long, but it's got a lot of mileage over the years.
One more quick question about that 10-point night. Did you ever, or have you ever spoken to Dave Reece about that game? I mean, he had an .897 save percentage before that game, and then you put up 10 points and he never played another game.
Well, what happened in those circumstances unfortunately for Dave Reece was Jerry Cheevers, who was the Boston goalie for years there, had jumped to the World Hockey Association, the Cleveland Barons. And that particular week, the Cleveland Barons went bankrupt. They folded. And Cheevers was coming back to the National Hockey League. So one of his first days in practices with the Bruins was that morning skate in Toronto. And Don Cherry was the coach, and he had Dave Reece in the net. And I knew, he knew, I shouldn't say I knew, that Cherry wanted to save Cheevers for the next night back in Boston. So he's coming back to the National Hockey League. He's in his hometown. And that's where he's starting the game. So no matter how many Reece had let in or was going to let in, Cherry wasn't going to change his goalie. So I did meet Dave Reece a few times on the 40th anniversary, which is 10 years ago. The Leaf organization invited all the players and their spouses back to the rink to have an opening ceremony. They invited Dave Reece up from Boston. He had his Bruin jersey on, and he had the at the ceremonial face-off handed the puck over to me, and we did a ceremonial face-off for the 40th anniversary. He's a good guy. It was one of those nights. I think even back then they didn't pull the goalies like they do now. If a goalie lets a couple in, the coaches are quick to pull them. So he went on and had a successful career as a counselor. He was telling me he named his dog Sittler after that, so that was kind of cool and cute. But yeah, he's a good guy. For the 50th anniversary, I'm not sure what our plans are from MLSE, but if he came up and joined us again, that would be kind of cool.
That's cool. That's a great dog name for sure. Moving on a little bit from that 10-point night itself, when you watch today's game, are there any current players that kind of remind you of yourself, whether it be the way they play or just their character?
Well, it's an interesting comment, answer, question to comment on. Over the years, after I retired, I enjoyed watching the game. Some players that I admired, maybe more so than others. Dougie Gilmer for us when he was in the early 90s. He was the captain of the team. He played with a lot of fire in his belly. He was a fan favorite, team leader. I always liked the way he played. And even in Chicago, Jonathan Toews, in his first number of years with the Blackhawks, he was the captain of the team. He necessarily wasn't the best player on the ice or the most points that Patrick Kane and a few other guys, but he came up in the big situations and scored big goals and was a team leader. And the fact that he's now back into the league, is nice. He went through some challenging times, obviously, with his health over the last 2 or 3 years. But I like the style he plays. Sidney Crosby, I mean, he's a different level of talent than a guy like I was, but I like his demeanor and the way he carries himself, both not only on the ice but off the ice. He's a true ambassador to the game, and he's another guy that when things are getting tough, he comes up big. And I'm looking forward, like a lot of hockey fans, for the Olympics coming up. And I know Sid, as he's getting a little older, he's embracing this challenge in this Olympic tournament, and he'll be the captain of the team and hopefully the best player out there too.
Yeah, it should be an absolute blast to see best on best again for the first time in a while outside of the Four Nations face-off last year. Of course, you talk about Sidney Crosby, being a better player than you were, but be honest, what would Darryl Sittler in his prime look like in today's NHL? Where would you fit in?
I'd be a lot richer than I was. It's funny when you say that. Like back when I started in the league in '70, my annual salary was 15 grand. You played 78 games. I know inflation and all this other things have happened, but I played 15 years. I think the most I made my last season was 250,000. So the salaries have certainly changed a lot. When you compare me to Sidney Crosby, I was one of those guys that I loved the game. I played it with passion. I came every night to do the best I can. I prepared physically and mentally in the off season, off the ice, so that when the opportunity was there, I had the best chance of succeeding. One of the greatest moments of my career was the opportunity to play for Team Canada in '76 in Montreal. They picked the top 35 guys in the league to come on and try out for Team Canada, knowing only 25 guys were going to make it, 10 guys were going to go home. And I trained hard. I was 25 at the time, no guarantees, but Scotty Bowman liked something, in myself, and guys like Lanny McDonald, Bob Gainey. We were role players, so to speak. We weren't the stars on the team, but then it all turned out great for me in that I was playing left wing, not even center, and I got the opportunity to score the winning goal against the Czechs. And I never won a Stanley Cup, but being a part of that '76 Canada Cup team, to me, it was one of the greatest teams Canada ever put together. We just had a reunion last August, this past August in Montreal, and I think there was about 16 guys at it, but 18 guys off that hockey club went on to be NHL or Hockey Hall of Famers from their National Hockey League career. So that was my big moment, playing for Team Canada in '76.
Speaking of the 1970s, one final question here, and bringing it back to today's game. What current player, whether it be a Maple Leaf or otherwise, do you think would be the best fit on one of your 1970s teams?
Current player?
Yeah.
I really like the attitude and the consistency of Johnny Tavares. He's coming up. He just scored his 499th goal the other night. But he's a consistent guy. He's very professional, both on and off the ice. He was our captain, and he gave it up, to Austin Matthews, a younger guy, with the idea that maybe that would continue to help our team grow, Austin grow, and get a shot at winning the Stanley Cup. So he would be one player for sure that I'd love to have on my hockey club back then.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Darryl. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. Thank you for taking your time.
Okay, great to see you.
Thanks for watching this video. If you want more great fantasy hockey and betting content from myself, Carter Hutton, Matthew Barnaby, and the rest of the DFO analysts, make sure you subscribe to the DFO Fantasy and Betting YouTube channel today and never miss a minute.